1970 Japan, Tokyo. In the picture, we are shown that the city was being destroyed. Buildings are burning, there is only fire and black smoke everywhere. Monsters attack the city. The defenders of the city are trying to stop at least one of them, but their weapons are not so strong to defeat this strong monster. They panicked because they couldn't even scratch it. And there were a lot of these monsters. They no longer hoped for any miracle. But then a white-haired guy suddenly appeared, hitting one of the monsters hard. The defenders were overjoyed and wept with joy. After looking at them, the guy said that they did a good job, but now they have to leave here. And immediately the defenders began to move away from the battlefield. One of them asked how one person could defeat these monsters, to which the other said that he was the progenitor of magic, the strongest magician of all. That defender realized that it was the same Ichigami Minato. Ichigami Minato stood in front of these monsters and a kind of light emanated from him. One of the monsters wanted to attack him with his fiery fist, but Ichigami himself managed to attack him first, overcoming his blow. From his magic power came a lilac color and it completely destroyed the monster. The other monsters had already surrounded him. In one day, a large number of monsters were discovered all over the world. People have called this phenomenon a catastrophe. It was impossible to defeat these monsters with human weapons, but simultaneously with the appearance of these creatures, people discovered their abilities for magic. She was the only way to fight them. The war between monsters and humans lasted 10 years, and it continues to this day. Ichigami Minato was the first and most powerful magician. Without him, saving the world will be impossible. Ichigami Minato noticed a completely different creature in the sky. It looked like both a monster and a human at the same time. Ichigami realized that this was a devil of the first rank. He had a strong, overwhelming atmosphere and great strength, and there were a lot of wounded people. And then the monster suddenly attacked, directing a large stream of force at Ichigami. Ichigami barely managed to dodge. It was the 14th rank. The monster began to activate its power, which began to dig like a ball. Ichigami realized that it was a synthesis of the magic of the 6 elements. Ichigami created a barrier against the monster's attack, and then the ball exploded and even the barrier did not help him to cover up. Ichigami fell to the ground and looked at the monster. All his strength and energy came from him. He was very strong. Ichigami Minato realized that this monster could not be defeated so easily and he activated his power. A blue light emanated from it and it resisted the monster's strength. In magic, strength is determined by rank, and rank in turn is determined by the number of magic circles. The highest number of ranks that the creature in front of him could use was 14. And he himself could create 15. This is the 15th rank pure space. Raising his arm, he hit the ground using all his strength. This force was able to defeat the monster by destroying it completely, only leaving its head. Ichigami himself fell to the ground without strength. The boss was defeated, and the disaster was stopped there. But his magical powers have already dried up. Looking at the clear sky, I thought that dying as the progenitor of magic was a very good death, and his life was a good life for him. And his soul came out of him and went somewhere. Flying over buildings, he entered the hospital and moved in on one guy who was lying on the ward. Wiggling his fingers, he took a sharp breath and stood up. Looking at his hands, he wondered how he survived. But he had used up all his magic. How it happened. Looking towards the mirror, he looked at himself and was scared because a black-haired guy was looking at him. On the plaque, his name was written Kusanagi Minato. A doctor and a nurse entered Ikigami's room. When they entered, they examined the guy's wounds and were very surprised because his wounds had fully recovered. But after the accident, he was in critical condition, and the doctor said that holy magic healed him. And then Ichigami thought that the healing seemed to happen automatically, and then he wondered what kind of accident. And he asked the doctor, but he had run out of magic power, and because of this the doctor was at a loss to hear this what kind of magic. He replied that it was because of the battle with monsters during the disaster. Hearing this, the nurse and the doctor exchanged glances and the doctor asked if he could tell his name and what year it was. The guy said that his name is Ichigami Minato and the year is 1970. To which the doctor said that it seems there are consequences from the accident after all, and he may have memory loss. And he said that his name was Kusanagi Minato and it was already 2022. Hearing this in the evenings, he thought and realized that the doctors were not lying. Looking at the other side, he saw a TV, but he was surprised that it was thin and the image was clear. And looking at the calendar, I saw that in reality it was 2022. Seeing the tablet in the nurse's hands, Ichigami was even more surprised that Concrete had never seen such a small device before. The doctor said that the catastrophe he was talking about put an end to 50 years ago, and since then it has not been repeated. Ichigami asked what about monsters. The doctor said that they exist but there are very few of them now. The situation is peaceful. and the drafts of the relieved sighed when he heard that peace had finally come to the world. But the doctor said that however Ichigami Minato died, he sacrificed himself to save the world in the world great catastrophe 50 years ago, and that's why he can't be Ichigami Minato. Ichigami realized that he was reborn in the body of Kusanagi Minato living 50 years later, but he did not understand how and why it happened. A few weeks later, Ichigami entered his apartment. The apartment was small but cozy. This was the residence of Kusanagi Minato, that is, now his. Flipping through the documents, he found out that his parents died in childhood, was adopted by a foster family, but has been living alone since high school. And then he existed at the expense of his parents' inheritance, and he began to think that there was no such magic as transmigration of souls. It turns out that he was reborn as the providence of God or the consequence of chance. Looking at the student ID, he knew that he was studying at the Academy of Divine Magic, and Taigami thought that in his era there was no opportunity for such a discovery. And suddenly the whole phone vibrated in his bag, and I didn't understand all the techniques of modern life yet, so I was a little taken aback. A certain Tadano called him. He didn't understand how to use this thing, so he just threw it back. The phone stopped vibrating and a message came trampled. It was written there that he found out that he was discharged by foci, and so that he can move to the academy faster, even if he has no money. The next day he came to the academy. The academy was like some kind of palace. It was a very beautiful place. Ichigami said that he did not think that schools could be attended not only by children. After all, he was surrounded by a lot of teenage students. And then he saw who you were training on your magic. Seeing this magic, and the Czechs really wondered what kind of magic it was and what kind of power it was. Holding his head, he was horrified and he was disappointed, because many students of the academy make up less than 10 of the advanced magicians of his time. Surely these guys, as magicians, will be enough. Bowing his head in frustration, he went on and inside the academy to attract attention to himself. And he wondered if this was one of the negative aspects of establishing peace. This is how degradation occurs. Ichigami entered class 2A, and he sat down in his place. For him it was all interesting, and he wondered if he had any comrades. And then suddenly someone shouted, calling him. It was a red-haired guy with his colleagues next to him. With an angry face, he said that he ignored his SMS and how dare he do that. Having looked at him with the results, I asked who he was, to which the red-headed got angry and kicked his desk with his foot, saying that he had forgotten his Tadano-jun, and insulted him. And then Ichigami remembered him and good-naturedly said he must be his comrade. Grinning angrily, he sarcastically asked if he remembered if he knew how it works with friends and held out his hand to him, to which Ichigami stood up and smiled sweetly and shook his hand greeting him. But he abruptly pulled out his hand and took Ichigami by the scruff of the neck and began threatening to give him money because he has a decent inheritance from his parents. After looking at him, Ichigami said what it means that Kusanagi Minato was bullied. Hearing him, Tadano got very angry and wanted to hit him. But then a blue-eyed girl entered the classroom and said hello to everyone. In her Tadano blushed, but after looking at the hearths, he pinched that he would deal with him later and left. The lesson began and the teacher said that today they would talk about the world great catastrophe. On the blackboard he wrote that the great world catastrophe ended in 1970 thanks to the sacrifice of Nadu Foci. The great catastrophe is considered the last catastrophe in history. The world was filled with monsters and everyone was in despair. However, the progenitor of magic, the great saint, and the hearths of the names were different. He did not give up fighting monsters alone, and eventually died after he defeated a high-ranking demon. Since then, there have been no catastrophes, so who is the person and the names of the children? And then that girl with blue hair raised her hand. Her name was Mizuhi. She replied that the only survivor as well as one of the disaster is Ichigami Minato. The Academy of Divine Magic was also founded in his honor. The teacher said that everything she said was true and he was the only survivor, also the first magician of the disaster, and the first person to awaken magic. The academy was built in order for magics like Ichigami to be released one by one for a minute. While they were talking, Ichigai sat trembling and blushing with embarrassment. Thinking to myself that I would have known that I would be subjected to such torture, I definitely would not have come here. However, as that doctor said, peace reigned in the world. Maybe that's why May became weaker. Looking at the window, he thought that it was so good that peace had finally come. The lesson ended. The teacher said that tomorrow there will be an assessment of magical power. Tadano looked at Ichigami and said that tomorrow his insignificant strength would see him. Ichigami looked at him with bewilderment and thought that this guy was so bored. I noticed for myself that it is not worth wasting time communicating with him. and he continued to mock him, saying that he could be such a mediocrity in his parents. And he added, he is a lumpen without parents. And everyone started laughing at him with hearts turned around, looked at him and said that he was an amazing loser. After hearing this, the red-haired man got very angry and started shouting how dare he call him that, and activated his magic power. All the students were scared, and the same one directed his magic circle at the totals of his power was like a fireball. Everyone started moving away from them to a safer distance, and the ball flew towards Ichigami. The fire flew to the side and checks. There was indignation at the bottom of the ear because he really uses magic because of some verbal altercation. The red-haired one said that he started it all. The fire went out and began to dissipate, and Ichigami still stood without a scratch. Everyone was shocked to see him. Tadano was at a loss as his magic did not affect him in any way. Even he did not leave a scratch. Ichigami thought that the magic power of the rank 1 level can be protected with just a barrier. Even magic is not necessary to use. Ichigami said he was condescending because he thought he was a child. But children need to be punished. Having said this, he looked at Tadano and his company with a terrible expression on his face. They looked at him in fright. A lilac glow began to come out of it, as if it was burning with lilac fire. And all the students thought they couldn't move. They didn't understand what was happening to them. And Ichigami began to approach Tadano. He began to tremble with fear, and when Ichigami stretched out his hand in his direction, a teacher suddenly entered the classroom shouting what was going on here and who used magic. And he said he was waiting for an explanation. The students looked at him and didn't know what to say, but Ichigami handled the situation. He smiled and said that maybe someone used magic on the street because nothing happened in the classroom. And the teacher objected, saying that there is no magic club activity in the schoolyard. To which Ichigami said that perhaps students outside the institution arbitrarily used magic, because magic wants to use it without difficulty. When asked about the smoke, he said it was from the street. I thought about it a lot, but I said that well, if Kusanagi keeps saying that, then it must be true. Turning to the other students, he said that the teacher was going in search of the criminal, the rest should go home. And these Ichigami at this time thought that he did not want to worry and whether it was worth doing everything quietly. Filed was still angry at Ichigami, and the results at this time I thought that even though they are students of the academy, their level is overwhelmingly low. Is modern magic able to defeat the monster? This question made me think, because even if there is no catastrophe, there must be monsters, and I thought you could check to look for them. Old Town, Shibuya. We are being moved in the wreckage of one city. All the buildings were destroyed and there was no inanimate soul. And pulling on a black hood and mask, he flew around the city with the help of his magic, landing on one of the buildings. He said that I had also changed a lot in jumping. He continued his journey. He thought that there are supernatural forces of monsters he does not feel, despite the fact that everything is in ruins. The police are combing the neighborhood. But then he felt the power of a monster as well as a human, and began to fly in that direction. The monster with terrible red eyes began to approach the girl. She was trembling with fright and asked them to leave. But the monsters were not so friendly to obey her and wanted to attack. But then their path was fenced off by Ichigami, put between the monster and the girl. Ichigami looked at the girl. She was wearing a badge, and by the badge it was possible to find out that she was a magician and from the police. Turning away, he told her to be more vigilant. She thanked him and apologized for the situation, but he did not hear her and quickly flew away. The girl sat puzzled, thinking who this stranger was. It looks like it was a magician of outstanding abilities, and it seems he didn't even use any spells to drive away monsters. Flying to the other side of the hearths, I thought that hiding my face was a good decision, and he had just been reborn and therefore did not want to stand out. But still, the level of the police has decreased to such an extent that they can be killed by a magical beast of this category. Apparently, they can't kill a monster in situations like this. He's even talking about the police, and what can we say about the students? The magicians have weakened. This is a fact. But then he smiled a little and said that even in this era his village is still in need. The first thing to do is to exterminate all the monsters in the area, he told himself. We are presented with a picture where the teacher shows his students some kind of magical device. He explained that today they have an assessment of magical power according to the plan. It is necessary to properly measure the level of their magical powers and find out what element they possess. If they want to practice magic professionally, then do not underestimate the importance of this business. Ichigami was a little perplexed and wondered what it would be impossible to evaluate without this thing. And holding his head, the teacher said the same thing. The feeling of magical power is the basis of all magic. And then that girl with blue hair came up to him and asked him for a few words. Everyone looked at them and said that Mizuha and Kusanagi were talking. It was strange because they hadn't talked before. The girl looked at him and said that she was talking to him for the first time, wasn't it? And he introduced himself that she was the second daughter of the Mizuho family, the aristocratic magicians of Mizuhi Yuki. But Ichigami did not understand what other magicians are aristocrats. Here the girl was indignant because her family is at the head of the 4 elements of aristocratic magicians. Ichigami thought that in his time there was no such thing, and he certainly had not heard of the surname Mizuha. After analyzing her, he thought that her level of magical power was meager, very weak for a girl coming from a family of outstanding magicians. From such an attitude to herself, the girl was indignant and thought he wasn't talking to anyone but to her. Why doesn't he appreciate it? Tadano saw them and started getting angry because Ichigami was talking to her. Ichigami asked what business the lady aristocrat from the family of magicians turned to him. The girl was angry because he was still indignant. Sighing, she told herself to come to her senses and maintain her dignity as the daughter of an aristocratic family of magicians. Ichigami wondered even more what was wrong with her. She was haunted by yesterday's incident. Yesterday Kusanagi was subjected to a magical blow, but he was not injured at all. There must be a reason for this. Crossing her arms, she said that she was about yesterday, but then the teacher interrupted her, saying that the remaining students should be evaluated. Ichigami, smiling carelessly, went there as if he hadn't talked to Mizuha before, and the girl calmed herself, thinking that all the same after the assessment she would understand what his strength was. It was Tadano's turn. He activated his power and placed his hands on the stone inside the apparatus. It showed that Tadano-jun's magic power level was 1000, and his element was fire. Then I was glad because his level has increased since that time. Ichigami also thought that if his strength level is 1000, then the numerical standard is the same as 50 years ago. It was Mizuha's turn. She put her hand on the device and the level of her magic power showed that it was equal to 2000 element water. Tadano said that the 2 of them have the highest rates among this year's students. They have every chance of becoming excellent magicians. All the students began to admire how cool they were, and then he was a natural carrier of fire magic. And Ichigami was shocked by the fact that 2000 is the highest figure among this year's students. But isn't that a little higher than a beginner's score? The girl grinned maliciously and thought that such was the strength of the Mizuha family, and he wouldn't look at her with a smug face anymore. And now it was his turn. All the students whispered that he always had the worst indicators. His grades for academic tests are impressive, but if we talk about the ability to magic, then the cat didn't cry. Tadano thought he was incompetent and now he would embarrass himself in front of Yuika. And Mizuha thought that what is his level of magical power? Well, certainly not above her. Ichigami was thinking how best to act. After all, during the period when he was a great saint, it was stressful to attract so much attention to himself. Wouldn't it be better to cheat then? Although no, he thought and put his hands on the stone. And then a very bright light lit up the room. Ichigami thought that he would show all his strength. If it is possible to measure the magic of a great saint, then he is testing himself. And then the whole academy began to glow. Everyone was in shock, not understanding what was going on. And the device began to shake because of such force, and exploded. Ichigami thought that he had not even strained to the full and the device had already broken. Are there any students who have felt his power? And they generally have the makings of magicians, he thought. The teacher excitedly asked if everyone was okay. They said they were fine. And he turned to Ichigami and asked if he was alright. He said that yes, and he was lucky even though he was in the epicenter. The teacher said that in the first and sees that the measuring device broke with a defect was that he did not understand. And I was puzzled what to do now. After all, he did not recognize the level of magical power and the element of Kusanagi, that is, our Ichigami. He was asked what the problem was after all. The teacher said that a lesson was planned in which they are divided into groups and study combat operations. He thought to look at their magical abilities and then decide. And then, looking at Tadano, he asked him to take Ichigami into their group. At first they looked at him angrily, but Tadano smiled and agreed. The teacher said he was relying on him. Shibuya Old Town. Monsters still inhabit places that were badly damaged during the disaster. Currently, Shibuya is abandoned, and the police and magicians regularly exterminated the animals living here. The teacher explained all this to the students. They were in Shibuya. The teacher said that in this way the students of the academy also provide the necessary assistance. Most of the creatures have already been killed by professional magicians, and adding that they can be calm, there are few monsters left here. For Ichigami, it was a surprise that they really have something to do with real battles, and perhaps at least a bunch of monsters will be able to kill the students. In addition, it looks like they will act in groups. Looking at his surroundings, he thought that this was the same place where he had been last night, and it was strange. He was sure that he had exterminated all the monsters here, but he still felt magic. There are no signs of a catastrophe, and then why do these creatures keep appearing? And some students decided to compete, and Ichigami thought that they were careless, even though this lesson involves a real battle. Mizuho looked at him suspiciously. The teacher said that the lesson of real fighting begins, and said that they must necessarily act in teams. Then Ichigami shouted at him from behind and pushed him against the nearest wall. Tadano and his group said that now no one will interfere with them, and this time there will be no mercy for him. Ichigami said that if he doesn't like him, then let him ignore him. Tadano viciously shouted that such a brat as he was not given a word and began to insult him, and plaintively said why then Yuika pays attention to him. At first Ichigami didn't understand, but then he clicked his finger and asked if he liked Mizuha. But this is even more. Tadano appeared, activated his fire disc. He shouted that he himself had signed the death sentence. Ichigami told them to stop, but they said it was too late to apologize. But he told them to turn around. When they turned around, they saw a large black monster that was emitting purple fire. It was the Devil's Guardian. The guys were very scared and did not understand where the Devil's Guardian in Shibuya came from. Then the other guys turned to Tadano, saying let him handle it, they can't fight him. He said that for him it's easier than ever, but at the same time, he was very afraid of this monster himself. And then gaining all the strength he directed it at the monster and it began to burn. They were glad that it was all over with him. The fire quickly went out and the monster had no damage. Tadano was shocked that the monster didn't even have a scratch. Ichigami thought that with his first rank, the Devil Guard could not be defeated. And then the monster began to approach them. The guys were trembling violently from fear and even started crying. They thought that this monster would finish them off. When the monster pulled his paw to them, he saw Ichigami, and realizing that he could easily defeat him, he walked away from them a few meters back. Ichigami said that obviously even the guardian of the devil can understand that who is strong here. A blue light began to emanate from Ichigami. The monster got angry and activated its power. Ichigami also activated his power. The others said that he could not beat him with the first rank and crying said that they were finished. The monster attacked a rank 2 called Stone Breach, but the foci directed his power called rank 1 Fire Arrow. The fire was very large and was able to pass through the stone gap and reach the monster. The monster began to burn and nothing remained of him except his lilac stone on his forehead. Then Ono was shocked because how could a man like Kusanagi kill the Devil's Guard? Even with his first rank, the Guardian cannot be defeated. Ichigami thought that obviously the presence of the Guardian Devil in Shibuya is extraordinary. It is also strange that the monsters that he had to exterminate appeared again. Maybe it's an omen. Disaster is approaching faster than he expected. And then he remembered his past life where monsters exterminated people without sparing anyone and nothing. Even he himself has lost his own, even he himself has lost his loved one. Remembering this, he became a little sad, but gathering his strength into a fist, he thought that even if a catastrophe arose again, he would try to save everyone, no matter what it costs. At that time, the rest of the guys still could not believe that the results had taken out the guard. Then she was furious that Ichigami was able to defeat the monster so easily. And all this time Mizuha was watching this origin. Mizuha, using her power of rank 1 water disc, was able to attack and defeat one monster. The students watching were delighted with her strength. Mizuha thought that how could she be surprised at such a level? She was worried that ordinary people, although she thought what could she do if she had such a talent? And then she saw Tadano and her gang taking Ichigami in the other direction. Turning to the others, she said she would leave for a moment and followed them. She thought maybe they were bullying him about her. If that's the case, then she can't let them get away with it. She quietly approached, and when she looked through the wall she already saw the Devil's Guard who already wanted to attack our heroes. The girl thought in fright that this was not the one they would be able to defeat, and when she wanted to rush there to help them. But Ichigami has already unleashed his power on the monster. The girl was surprised by his magic because as far as she remembered, he was timid and did not have the makings for magic. Now he's just like a different person, and she noticed that he didn't cast spells in any way. And in general, she could not believe that he had defeated the guards of the first rank. The strength level of a monster is determined by the number of crystals it has. According to him, his place in the hierarchy is also established. In 6th place are magical beasts. On the 5th watch. On the 4th, demons. On the 3rd, the supreme demons. On the 2nd are demons. And the first one is the devil or Satan. Each creature has a fixed number of active ranks. This is something that should be known to all modern magicians. In order to defeat the Guardian, you need to have at least rank 3. With the first one, it should be impossible. When Ichigami started to leave, she hid but wondered why she was hiding. But still she looked at him. Ichigami noticed her a long time ago and said that she had a good hobby of peeping. When she asked how he found out, he said that it would be strange if Mac didn't notice it. The girl looked at him a little puzzled. Ichigami sighed and ironically asked her if she felt any magical power, and started to leave. Mizuha shouted at him to wait and asked what it all meant and demanded an explanation. But Ichigami suddenly disappeared. He was already on the roof of one of the buildings, and I breathed a sigh of relief, and I started to check if there are other monsters on the environment. Analyzing the surroundings, he thought that there were no guards nearby anymore, but there were a decent number of magical beasts, and he doubted that the rest of the students could cope with them. Whether there was a level, then it was considered excellent, and I thought maybe I could reduce their number at least a little. Activating the yellow discs, he marked the area as the vicinity of Shibuya Station, then activated the second-rank magic projectiles into his power, and then yellow rays began to come out of the discs, which spread throughout the environment. Seeing this, the students were surprised and wondered if it was meteors or magic. Mizuha realized that this was a mania and was too surprised by the amount. At that time, other students were fighting with magical beasts. There were many of them, and there were only 2 students. One of them said that they can't handle them anymore, there are too many of them. One of the monsters ran towards one of the students and just wanted to attack, but then the yellow ray cut off the monster's head from the body. Immediately his partner ran to her asking how she was. And at this time, Ichigami was watching this and said that everything felt like it was progressing as it should, and maybe he even went a little too far since he killed all the monsters. After all, this was meant as a lesson, and he thought he should have turned down the power. Ichigami jumped between buildings using a magic disc under his feet. After looking around, making sure that no one was there, he landed on the ground. He thought that there was no need to hide his powers to extremes, but if she attracted attention it would cause inconvenience, so he walked around in a circle. He saw 3 students and a teacher who was sitting over the corpse of a magical animal. He said he didn't know there were so many magical beasts left here. The herd had to be broken up. But at the same time, he thought that death by one blow was clearly the work of a man of proper skill. After looking around himself and the corpse of the magical beast, he thought that this magic without the use of elements, and such an incalculable number of projectiles he had never encountered. In this magic, they would still be in that danger. 2 creatures are not a problem, but 6 students would not be able to cope with them. One of the students asked in fright why there were so many magical beasts here. The other also shouted indignantly that they almost died. The teacher bowed before them and asked for an apology, and he said that they had heard that the police had to deal with the murder of the herd, and it was worth certifying this herself. And he said he was really sorry for putting them in danger. One girl asked who saved them after all. The teacher said he didn't know that. The teacher thought that it was unlikely that it was someone from the police or official magicians. Maybe it was an outlaw poppy, but the fact remains that he saved them. The unknown magician can only be thanked. All the students started discussing the magic that happened, and Ichigami was glad that no one was injured. And then noticing Tadano and his gang, he sighed and noted that they, too, were not injured. Mizuha, watching him, thought that he was able to kill the guard the first ranks. Besides, that huge amount of magic is his handiwork. Fire element magic as well as magic without their use. There are no students with 2 elements. Even this man. But the girl relaxed a little and thought that she must be thinking it out because he can't own 2 elements in any way. Magic without elements was used by someone else and not by Hearths, despite the fact that he defeated the guards. This is a fact, and she wondered who he was. Kusanagi Minato. One of the guys from the Dodano group said that those things look like lasers. Kusanagi must have done it too. And the other guy denied it. But he objected, after all, and was able to finish off the guard with rods. And then suddenly Tadano looked furiously and told them to shut up. And he said that it couldn't be that Kusanagi, a worthless sociopath, was so strong. Anyway, there's something wrong here. His team agreed with him that there was something wrong. Then she was already angry, said that he was playing a dishonest game and promised that he would take off his mask. After lessons, Ichigami was returning to his house and then his path was threatened by guys where Tadano was in their head. Ichigami looked at them wearily and asked if they thought it would be better for them to practice magic. Hearing this, Dano began to get angry and said that he was talking too much for a scoundrel. Ichigami didn't understand why he said he was a scoundrel. To which then Na shouted at him not to pretend and said that he did not believe him so that he could use such magic, and told him to admit what kind of trick he used. Looking at him, Ichigami thought that there was no point in trying to talk to him. Tadano told him to follow him. When they arrived at their destination, he grinned maliciously and said that it was commendable that he did not escape. They were surrounded by a lot of guys. Ichigami indifferently said that there was no need to escape. Tadano, shouting, told him not to do because he could do whatever he wanted. After all, magic is useless in a fight, and hit him with his fist. Everyone started beating him with someone's fist, someone with his foot, but Ichigami stood like a wall without moving. Tadano grinned triumphantly and said that he couldn't do anything without magic, and Ichigami all this time just put up protection and stood still. After all, his magic is activated automatically, so even though they will beat him, but the wound will still not come out. There are so many problems with them pretending to be hit, he thought. And then suddenly someone asked them what they were doing here. It was a miso ear. They all didn't know what to do when they saw her. Then she was a little confused but said they were just having fun. Mizuha objected and said she knew they were bullying Kusanagi, and indignantly added that where has it been heard that the students of the Academy of Magic are engaged in mockery, and are they not ashamed of it? The guys were a little confused by her words, and in Tadano's head, the same thought was spinning that everything was happening because of Ichigami. Because of him, Yuika is now outraged at him. She approached Ichigami, taking his hand and told him to go with her. Seeing them holding hands, Tadano flew into a rage and began repeating like a madman that Kusanagi was to blame for everything. And again activating his power, he told them to finish him off, and they all directed their magic power towards Kusanagi, that is, Ichigami. All the fiery force headed towards Ichigami. The girl wanted to protect him, barely having time to put a shield to herself. Tadano laughed angrily, saying that after such a magical attack, he would not be able to survive at all. But some, a little worried, said that seriously, it was a bad idea. And what happens if he really died? Tadano, smiling maliciously, said that there was nothing to be afraid of and added in case they would say that magic was used just by chance at school, and it got out of control, and Kusanagi just got under his arm. Ichigami, standing inside the smoke after the fire, said that their pampering goes beyond all facets. Before that, he did not attach any importance to this because he regarded it as childish behavior. But apparently only a club will correct stubborn people, and he added that it was time for education. The whole group, including Tadano, were shocked at how he remained alive after such a volume of magic. Ichigami said that he had subjected not only him but Mizuha to her, and his recklessness could ruin her as well. To which Tadano angrily shouted that it was only their fault, there was nothing to look down on him. And again I activate in my power. He viciously said that he would extinguish it as long as it takes for his death. Ichigami snapped his fingers and created a small magic disc. Seeing this, everyone started laughing. What kind of magic circle is this? And again, to direct all the force in that direction, Ichigami said that this time he would definitely die. Ichigami said the magic drain activated the circle and vines began to come out of it and link the guy's hands and feet. And suddenly they began to lose consciousness. After a few seconds they were already lying on the ground unconscious. Ichigami squatted down and thought that he had sucked out only a little magic and she had already flogged. Well, at least now they will come to their senses a little. Mizuha was sitting on the ground all this time watching these pictures and wondered what kind of magic it was and why Tadano and his friends fainted. Taking the bag, Ichigami wanted to go further on his way, but Mizuha stopped him and started asking a bunch of questions. The questions were of such a kind as what kind of magic it was, not what it does, how did it happen, because he had no magic at all before, and who he was in general. These questions gave him a headache and he thought that it would be very troublesome. Ichigami asked indifferently, shouldn't she have said anything else? Blushing a little, she thanked him for saving her, but still demanded an answer to her questions. But then Ichigami disappeared again. In the night, Hearts again went to the old town of Shibuya. Jumping over the roofs, he joined one of the buildings. He thought he had a bad feeling, so he came to sort it out, but apparently the monsters that were supposed to be exterminated in the afternoon were resurrected. A sign of what it is. If the situation is only with Shibuya, he alone will be enough. Only here he felt the magic of monsters available in other places. It is possible that the police simply cannot keep up. And the level of magicians, it seems, cannot be called high. Be that as it may, it will be impossible for him to defeat the demons all over Japan alone. And then what to do? He asked himself this question. It was necessary to take some measures. While he was coming up with a plan, he still decided to clear the area in the district and noted for himself that it was necessary to act cautiously without attracting attention. And again activating the power that he used during the day, he began to exterminate monsters. A drunk man was walking around the city. Magical beasts were quietly following him and just wanted to attack him. His path was blocked by Ichigami, killing him with one blow. The man looked from behind but saw no one, and I thought maybe he was dreaming and went on his way. After making sure that the man did not notice him, and the checks went in the other direction. All this time he was filmed by one girl on the phone, writing that the magician in black saved the man and sent it to everyone. Ichigami Mizuhi Tadano and his group were in the director's office. The teacher said that the students of their academy used magic outside of the educational institution. They received such a message yesterday, and he added that if this is true, then they cannot leave this issue just like that, and demanded an explanation of the situation. Tadano angrily said that they didn't use magic and accused Kusanagi of allegedly having a fight. Ichigami looked at him a little confused and thought that how could he lie so easily. He was even a little delighted. After analyzing the situation, he thought that it would not work to remain silent here and still need to explain the situation. But then Mizuhi stood up for Ichigami, saying that Tadano was lying. She said that it was Tadano and his friends who mocked Kusanagi first using magic. The teacher asked if Kusanagi used magic, to which the girl replied that he used magic for self-defense, and he did nothing wrong. Ichigami was surprised by her words. Tadano stammered wanted to say something, but Mizuhi shut him up, saying that not only did he mock others and dare to shift responsibility to another, and indignantly asked if he was ashamed as a student of the academy. Tadano stammered but still viciously said that Kusanagi does not fit for this academy at all, and that's why Tadano proposed to exclude him. The girl translated said that the one who does not meet the academy is himself. But he said that he had the best results in the whole course and he was the only one who could stand on a par with her. Tadano said that I would definitely not save such a guy, but he could, and tearfully offered her to become his girlfriend. But the cold one replied that let him dream on. She sarcastically said that she would never become the girlfriend of a man who enjoys bullying, a man who is disposed to cruelty, and, moreover, a man who chooses a completely inappropriate moment for recognition. All this knocked him out of Tadano's rut. Ichigami even felt a little sorry for him. But what you sow, you will reap. All this time, the director of the academy, who was sitting quietly, said that it looks like the fault lies with Tadano and his friends, and the Kusanagi used magic in self-defense. He said that they don't need people who use magic based on selfish desires, and so he came to the conclusion that he would exclude them. Tadano's friends indignantly shouted that they were just obeying Jun's instructions. The teacher looked at Mizuhi and Kusanagi and said they could go. After leaving the director's office, the girl was still puffing with anger and said that it was really low, and she had not experienced such indignation recently. Ichigami asked what would happen to them when they were expelled, to which Mizuhi said that they would definitely not become magicians for guys like them, and this is natural, and looking at her indignantly said that he was also good. How could they be silent after what they said about him? Ichigami thought that he was going to speak, but then she spoke. He looked at her and thought a little. When the girl asked what was wrong, he said that the idea came to him suddenly, but she had already tried to help him out more than once. And then in class, and during a real battle class, and now, too. And smiling, he said that she was amazingly good. From such a confession, the girl blushed deeply and told him not to say such a thing and ran away. Ichigami thought that Kusanagi Minato died, and he was born. And I wondered if he decided to die because of bullying. Or maybe it was an ordinary car accident. Ichigami didn't know that for sure, but still he was pleased with the fact that they had suffered their punishment. There were 2 more students in the principal's office, a girl and a guy. One of them asked, so there are students who have used magic outside the academy, as well as students who have been involved. The director said it right and added that fortunately none of the civilians were injured. The students asked why he called them. He replied that one of the students involved is Mizuhi Yuki. The girl with blue long hair, after thinking a little, replied that she understood the situation and thanked him. Finally, the director told her to say hello to her father, to which she replied that even if he was calm, her father was interested in investing for the academy. After leaving the director's office, the guy said that if everything they had just heard was true, then this Kusanagi had a lot of strength. The girl said that fighting with several magicians is an extremely thankless task. If you don't have impressive strength, you won't win. Hearing this, the guy asked if she thought Kusanagi was stronger compared to them too, to which she replied in the negative, adding that she was interested in him. As they walked along the corridor, all the students looked at them with admiring eyes. The guy asked what they would do. The girl replied that they would confirm the strength level of Kusanagi Minato's disciple, and also the question with her sister whether she will leave school or not. It was Yuika's older sister. Mizuhi is a 3-year-old S-class hand, and the brunette guy's name was Katsuragi Ryuji 3rd year S-class. And at this time, our hero Ichigami was lying on his desk with boredom, noting the constancy of peace throughout the world. And then the rest of the students watched a video where Ichigami saved a man from a monster and violently discussed him, the magician in black. The words of the magician in black, Ichigami questioningly thought it was someone from the magical aristocracy. But then boredom noted that what difference does it make to him? Suddenly, the teacher pulled him out of his thoughts and called him, saying that the students who could not pass the assessment of magical power would now be re-evaluated. Mizuha thought that she would finally recognize Kusanagi's power, but everyone looked the other way and saw Yuki's sister's hand and that guy named Ryuji. Yuika wondered what her sister was doing here and why she had come to such a place. Yuika wondered why her sister had come to such a place. It's not really necessary for her to observe the re-evaluation. And looking at Kusanagi, she thought that her sister had really come to look at Kusanagi. She also finds his strength suspicious. The next student who had to test his strength was Kusanagi Minato. He thought that last time he broke everything, so now he has to keep an eye on the force. You put your hand on the device and began to control your strength. But it was not easy for him after the assessment. He was a little tired that the teachers asked if he was alright. The teacher said that this time the assessment was successful. The elements of Kusanagi Minato are missing, and the amount of magic is 100. Everyone was discussing it as it was the worst indicator on the course, and it was very rare that there were no elements at all, and judging by the rumors, in principle, it is not that suitable for it. Ryuji is disappointed, but he sighed and said that he had defeated the gang. Apparently there was some kind of misunderstanding. The hand said the case was closed and they walked away from here. All the students looked at Kusanagi and said that he was very tired of such an assessment. Apparently this is a common thing for what with such a level of magic. The teacher, encouragingly squeezing his shoulders, said that not to attach much importance to this because the amount of magic is not the whole picture. Yuika still couldn't believe it was definitely weird. After all, Kusanagi's real strength is such that he was able to cope with the magic guardian, and he must have the magic of the fire element, but also without the elements on the fact that the amount of magic can be regulated. She did not hear, and I wondered how he did it. Kusanagi exhaled with relief and thought that the result was flawless. The magic power needed to be adjusted as accurately as possible, and it turned out to be very tedious. But the trick worked, and that's the most important thing. Kusanagi and Yuika were walking along the corridor and he asked her why she was at the evaluation point. The girl said that she was interested in something, and then her sister and that guy blocked their way. Kusanagi asked who they were, to which the girl replied that she was the eldest daughter of the Mizuha family, and that guy Katsuragi Ryuji, and she said that they were both in the 3rd year of study. Kusanagi asked them what their business was. The hand replied that there was nothing left for him and approached Yuika. Crossing her arms, she said that she had heard that she could not do anything against the criminals. In addition, she had heard that she was saved by this Kusanagi youth whose strength is equal to 100. And asked if it was true. She replied that yes, it's all true. The hand began to verbally attack her, saying that in sports, in studies, and in magic, she was inferior to her in all possible spheres, and told her to leave the academy. Yuika was taken aback by her words. Then she began to remember that in all spheres she had conceded the truth to her sister. Her sister continued by asking if she had ever beaten her. She said Yuika wasn't good enough to be a magician. If she becomes a magician in their family, then this will be enough. Yuika wanted to object, but stammered a lot. Her sister interrupted her, saying that it was better for her to listen to what she was saying, leave the academy, and attend a regular school. From these words, Yuika's eyes began to water, and then Kusanagi, listening to the speech of the hand, said that all this was very arrogant. The hand looked at him coldly and asked what he had just said. Kusanagi said that she leads a non-stop monologue, not letting the interlocutor speak out. That's nothing but arrogance, isn't it? The hand replied that this was a family conversation and words were not given to an outsider. Kusanagi indifferently asked, is this a conversation, because it sounded like an order to him. The hand indignantly said what he had just said. Kusanagi responded coldly, telling her not to impose her lifestyle. After all, there is no reasonable reason for this, even if she is a family member. The hand maliciously said that it would be wise to leave an impossible dream, because her sister has no talent for magic. She never achieved her defeat. Yuika tearfully thought that her sister was right in believing that she had no talent. And then she remembered that looking at Kusanagi, she thought she was better and talented. And I thought that at the same time I had never won against my sister. But then Kusanagi said that she would win. The hand was indignant at this statement, how her sister could defeat her. Kusanagi said not here and now, and the hand offered them a magic duel for 2 weeks 2 by 2, telling him after all these audacity he would not escape. Kusanagi said that he was not participating in a duel at all, and looking at Yuki, he asked what she should do. The same one looked at him in surprise and did not know what to say. The girl, after thinking about it, still agreed. Kusanagi said that if they win, they will no longer interfere in their own business. Ruka added that if their groups win, then Yuika leaves the academy. Although in the other direction, she added that no one is going to linger and let them know reality at best. And the redhead waved his hand to them and also followed her. On the roof, Yuika said that she had a request from Kusanagi. Yuika enthusiastically asked him to pass her mentor help. Kusanagi thought that he was suddenly called to the roof and that's what he gets. And he said that he was a lower magician. His magic power is equal to 100 and she asks such a person to become her mentor. She replied that he was hiding his real strength and she had no doubt that he should be stronger even than her. Kusanagi was surprised by this statement. The girl still continued saying that he knows how to become stronger and that's why he was talking about defeating her sister. Kusanagi thought about what kind of person she always sees everything in black or white. So she provoked him to fight and didn't know what to say. And then Yuika bowed and asked him to become a mentor. Side on the leg still agreed. But however, provided that she follows what he says and does not escape halfway. To which the girl happily agreed. Kusanagi thought that he could not refuse when asked so fervently, and the fact is that they are waiting for the growth of the magician will not be superfluous. He said they would start classes today, and I thought about what kind of place to appoint. The girl a little redder offered to go to her house. The painting moves to the large mansion that is Yuika's home. Looking around, Kusanagi said that her house is huge, to which the girl said that her father belongs to the magical aristocrats, so it goes without saying. And then she suddenly thought that she was bringing the boy home for the first time and wondered if it looked strange from the outside. Although there is nothing particularly strange about it. Kusanagi called her name and said it was time to start. But then she interrupted her by asking why he was calling her by name. To which he said that her sister was also called Mizuhi, so that it was unclear who he meant. The girl was a little disappointed, sighed, saying that's what's the matter, and the guy said if you don't like it, then he can call her differently. But she said she didn't mind. Kusanagi said that then they would start classes and the first thing would be questions and told her to try to answer. And he asked what magic power was. The girl answered easily, saying that it was the internal energy of the body needed to deal with mania. The next question was what is a spell? She replied that a program that automatically turns magical power into magic. Is it then possible to increase magic power with intent? She said that the limit of the amount of magic power is determined from birth, and at some age and growth stops. The girl was quite an owl. She thought that she answered all the questions correctly and said that the perfect answer wasn't it. But then I destroyed Kusanagi's expectations by saying that all the answers were wrong. The girl indignantly asked how so. Kusanagi thought that really neither modern magicians are so ignorant. And sighing heavily, I wondered what had happened in these 50 years, and he began to answer his questions. The first is that magic power exists not only in bodies but also in nature, and the spell in any case has an auxiliary function. And yes, it is possible to increase the magical power with the help of magic. The girl said that this could not be because if it were all true and the science of magic turned you upside down. Kusanagi said that now she might not believe him. But in any case he would spread the 3 questions they were talking about, and told her to sit down. And now she added to let the magic power go with the flow, and as soon as she feels it, let her say. Looking at him, she asked if it was possible to feel her, to which he said if she couldn't, she wouldn't get any stronger, and told her to close her eyes, added that he would touch. And then the ichthyol began to glow like a blue fire. The girl was still sitting quietly and Kusanagi, thinking that this was not enough, added a little more strength, and then the girl said that I felt hot on my back for something. Kusanagi said that this was the perception of magic. The girl asked what he had told her before. That's what he meant by the feeling of magic. He said that everything was true and added that he would not forget about this perception. If she can sense, she can identify, and see the magical power of natural objects. First of all, she should strive for this, to which the girl enthusiastically said that she is the second daughter of the Mizuhi family. She will definitely cope with this quickly. He thought about it, asking himself the question, did it happen only after a decent flow of magical power? It seems that Yuika clearly has no talent for magic. A week later, the girl desperately shouted that nothing was working at all. Kusanagi thought that a whole week of serious practice, but she never figured out the basics. With all that, it's coming soon. He said that he would direct the magic flow once again and directed the magic flow in her, and told her to open her eyes. The girl enthusiastically said that she saw and asked, is this the same magic power? Looking at her hands, she was delighted because she could see mana. Looking at Kusanagi, she thought now she can see his mana as well. When she looked at him, she saw that a noticeable blue light was coming from him. She wondered why his strength was unnoticeable. Kusanagi praised her, saying that she did a good job, to which the girl blushed but said complacently that there was nothing special, it all goes without saying. Kusanagi informed her, saying that after she learned to perceive mana, she needed to learn how to manage it correctly. We are shown a scheme where the initial amount of Manhwa is 100. If you consume 50 mana, you can use it twice. And if you consume 20, you can use mana 5 times. Kusanagi said that it is very important for the amount of mana used. Her task is to use mana as efficiently as possible. If you use up all the mana, then over time it will recover and its amount will increase. Since she can now perceive mana, there should be no problems with her control. The girl asked the question what is different from the generally accepted knowledge about magic. Kusanagi wanted to say that if she can't believe here, the girl interrupted him saying that she believes now, she trusts him completely. Kusanagi replied that then they move on to the next stage, now they will fight, and told her to attack. The girl activated her power of the first rank water discs and directed her towards Kusanagi, but Kusanagi was able to defend himself with a shield. The girl was surprised that her spell had disappeared. Kusanagi explained that his shield belongs to rank 1 and it is called without an elementary magic barrier, and he added that if she couldn't break his arm, she definitely wouldn't win. The girl again directed her forces in his direction. You protect Kusanagi. You said not to forget to move around. If she stops in a fight against a magician, then she will definitely lose. Yuki was already exhausted and said she couldn't do it anymore. Kusanagi said that if she learns to control mana, she won't need to cast a spell. Having shown her his strength, he directed fire at one of the mannequins. Yuika asked Kusanagi if her mana was dissipating. He said it was true, and he added that magic can be used without casting spells if she knows how to control mana. The girl asked in surprise, that is, she may not read spells at all, to which Kusanagi said that it would be too difficult for her for now. First, she needs to learn how to simply reduce the spell, then when she learns to control mana, she will be able to completely abandon them, and by reducing the spell, she will gain a significant advantage in battle, and also save a lot of money while reading them. The girl asked that she could become stronger, to which Kusanagi replied that this was an excellent conclusion, and he told me to continue my studies. The girl was a little confused for asking already again they will start, to which he said that it was necessary to consolidate the acquired knowledge, otherwise there would be no point in them. Activating the golden circle, he told her 10, that's the word, she is on the verge of death. The girl was a little scared of this, and Kusanagi said that he would have to do it every day. Already at night, Kusanagi was flying over the city of Harajuku. There are monsters on Harajuku, too, and no matter how much he exterminates them, it doesn't get any smaller. He didn't know what it would all lead to yet, and then he noticed that the magical beast wanted to attack a person. With the help of magic, he cut off his head, and I asked the girl if she was alright, but she took out her phone so quickly and started taking pictures of him. But Kusanagi managed to quickly fly away at the same time, leaving a green one better. Oksana, I thought that who knew that she would take pictures of him without even thanking him. And he noted for himself that next time, apparently, he should always go out only with a mask. In the morning, he started his classes with Yuika. She was very tired and wanted Eliza in your arms. Kusana, I thought that when the competition was only a few days left, although there is progress, she loses hands in everything. And he thought that Yuika would definitely not defeat her sister at this rate. He told her she could give up. When getting up from the ground, she said that she was always compared to her sister. She was no better than her at anything and she has already given up a lot. But she resolutely looked at Kusanagi and said that now she would never give up magic. Kusanagi said that at this rate she would not be able to defeat her, to which the girl shouted, then let him be even tougher. Kusanagi agreed and said that he would not hold back. And again they started their classes. They studied until sunset. The next day they practiced again, and at one point Kusanagi said that she had succeeded. The girl was delighted to hear this and fell to the ground with a sigh of relief. The guy praised her, saying that she did a good job. The day of the magic contest, Kusanagi asked her if she was ready, to which Yuika responded positively. And then he asked, looking to the side, who it was. 2 students approached them. It turns out it wasn't the students but the reporters who started photographing them, and the crowd began to ask, she's Ms. Mizuhi Yuki, right? And we asked them to say a few words about the upcoming duel in magic, asking questions that it's all about the conflict with the sister. When asked by Kusanagi what it is, Yuika replied that the battle of the sisters by the Mizuhi families would naturally make a noise in the media. Kusanagi thought it was just a battle between students. Maybe it's the famous pedigree of the magical aristocracy. Many people gathered in the stands to watch the battles. Kusanagi looked at them and asked if the scale was too large. The girl replied that magic duels rarely happen, so this is a whole event. Then someone called the 2 of them to the stage. The girl was very worried and trembling. Then Kusanagi called her and said that she should do everything in her power. The girl immediately became more confident in herself and said that it was natural, and they headed to the stage. The girl thought that he was an amazing person. His words hit the very heart. Her sister was already standing on the stage and looked at her and asked if she had escaped. And Yuika confidently said that naturally she did not run away. The hand said that it was absolutely incredible. She asked what she really thought that she could defeat the person in front of her. The girl confidently shouted that she would definitely win. The hand grinned maliciously and said that the fact that she had grown a little over the past couple of weeks did not give her anything. But the hand was really very strong for Yuika. She could see her power and thought it was scary to think about the difference in the amount of magic power. But she is also not inferior. For the Tribune, they stated that the magic duel begins now. And Yuika was the first to attack, restraining Kusanagi's words in her head that she should first recite short spells, while her sister was reciting longer spells. Kusanagi, watching them, thought that the constant movement of the tactics of the foundation. The hand is also aware of the battle between the magicians. However, Yuika was so nervous that she forgot about this tactic, so now the advantage in the speed of spells is lost. Yuika attacked her sister with a rank 1 spell, water discs, and hobby spell collided. The girl looked at it in a new way and somehow managed to compensate. She realized that she was stronger than before. The hand looked at her and said that compared to what it was before, she succeeded and did it in some 2 weeks. The girl was pleasantly surprised because her sister praised her. But yes, she coldly asked what she was happy about. She only brought comparisons, it was not praise. And she said she would raise the rank. Her magic circle became stronger and bigger and she directed the entire attack towards Yuika. The hand used a rank 2 water blitz. Yuika fell off the stage. Kusanagi looked at her and thought that if this was a spell speed contest, Yuiki would have a better chance of winning. But her opponents surpassed her. Approaching them, the hand accused Kusanagi that he was insensitive because he didn't even help Yuika. Hadn't he stood up for her before? To which Kusana did not reply that there was no need for help. After all, Yuika was still able to stand up. The hand was outraged because it was a direct fall of rank 2 and did not understand how it could stand. Yuika said that she would not lose. After all, she only has magic. Let her lose in something else, but she will not give in to magic. And after reading the spell, he directed his attack towards his sister, and it was much stronger than before. But all the same, Yuiki fell from fatigue and all the stands were told that the magic of Yuiki's participant was exhausted and the victory was for the participant's hand. Yuika, trembling, said that it didn't work out. Kusanagi thought that it was a contest whose outcome depended on the amount of magic used according to the coordination of magic power, and she lost in the difference between the amount of magic and power as such. The hand looked down at her and said that was all. It became clear that her sister had no talent and added that he should have understood it earlier. Kusanagi, getting up from his seat, said that she really had no talent. She is awkward. There is no particular success. The understanding of the essence also suffers. Give her the performances of the highest week. But she has perseverance because she trained every single day, reaching the point of stupidity, but she trained. The hand waved his hand and said that, and that's the result of all this. Kusanagi added that she really lost, however. He said that he likes such diligent people like Yuika. Yuika is his student and he can't stand to be talked about badly. Hearing these words, Yuika burst into tears violently. The snide hand said that what an honor for that T. The indicator of magical power is 100. Kusanagi coldly looked at her and said that this poppy whose indicator is 100 will overcome her. Hearing this, the arrogant girl said that not for the first time he was already speaking out arrogantly, and agreed, saying that one class would not be her opponent. There will be that dark-haired guy with the name Ryuji. Leaving the stage, the hand told him to finish it and quickly. Kusanagi, lifting Yuika in his arms, descended from the stage and sat the girl on one of the seats, saying let her closely follow his fight. And then Yuika noticed that her body didn't hurt anymore, and when she looked at her hands, she didn't find any bruises there. Kusanagi thought that it would look simple for them, so it is impossible to fight at full strength. The magic power should not be stronger than this indicator, necessarily without elemental, without casting spells. And since you have to do without a magic barrier, a direct hit by magic can kill him. Kusanagi maliciously thought that no matter how you look at such conditions, you can't help but worry. Ryuji apologized in advance, saying that he could not restrain himself. Kusanagi, I replied that then he would restrain himself. All the students of the Tribune began to cheer Ryuji, saying let him spare him. Kusanagi analyzed him and found out that his strength index is about 8,000. Under normal circumstances, there would be no problems, but now that his indicator is 100, one mistake can cost his life. In the stands, they said that the duel begins. Ryuji, saying that there would be no pity, activated his power by creating 3 large circles, and he thought how he could really cope with a gang of hooligans, and now he will check it with one blow. Whether he could withstand all his strength was interesting for Ryuji. But he did not have time to use his power, then a small circle flew on his head, beating him and he lost consciousness. Kusanagi said that he was late and that was the end. The fight is over. The victory was for the participant Kusanagi Minato. The hand was absent-mindedly looking at the redhead. She thought how he could lose consciousness from one blow, and she did not hear him recite at least some spell and she did not understand what kind of fraud it was. Kusanagi said that he finished quickly as she demanded. This angered the hand more. Yuika looked at him admiringly and thought that he was really cool and could overcome. The hand glared at him and said that apparently he was worth something, to which Kusanagi indifferently asked with himself where she compares him. To which the girl viciously replied that he was still trying to keep the last word for himself. Analyzing the condition of Kusanagi's hand, I thought that her strength was already equal to 10,000. She was stronger than the redhead. The stand said that now the composition of the second competition has accepted changes. Great hopes are pinned on the combat abilities of the Kusanagi participant. The participant who wins this round determines the victory of the team. So too the duel begins. Kusanagi and Roka find whether to attack each other. Kusanagi's strength was much less than that of the hand. He thought that now his index is equal to 100, of course, and the power of magic is low, so if you don't aim at the head, there will be practically no effect. And the hand was able to block the attacks towards the head. Kusanagi noted that she had already realized it was better to defend themselves and move. The girl directed a large flow of power towards Kusanagi, but he was able to dissipate all of her power. Ruka was very surprised because he didn't have any damage and it looked like he didn't use magic either, and I wondered what he had done at all. Watching these students said that she got caught, but he didn't even get wet as it happened. Buick was glad and delighted that the ability to catch was slipping. The hand again using this force again directed towards Kusanagi inside, deciding that she would find out what he had done. And Kusanagi just managed to dodge the blows. This surprised the hand even more because he did not use any magic, but simply dodged. Yuika thought that magic is opposed to magic. Even if there is a difference in strength, then he reduces it somewhat. If you do not do this, it will obviously be dangerous. When it comes to the second rank of speed, the mass is different. There should not be such that it makes noise to dodge. Clearing my throat, I thought this guy had no sense of fear at all. It looks like he's thinking it over. It's possible if he has the ability to sense and track magic power. Perhaps you need to be quite brave for this. And now the hand has started using rank 3, Azure Splash, and directed a large stream of water towards Kusanagi. The people watching this were outraged because he would not be lucky if he fell under a direct fall. The attack hit towards Kusanagi. The hand was sitting on the ground from fatigue, but still gloatingly noted that I definitely could not dodge it. But she also got a magic circle on her head. Everyone was shocked that he was still unharmed. The hand asked how he got out. Kusanagi replied that he used a magic drain that absorbs magic, and just walked through it. The hand hearing this started laughing and looking at the sky said that it was a complete defeat. In the stands, they said that the victory was for the participant Kusanagi Minato. Yuika ran up to him asking if he was alright. Kusanagi did not answer that yes, and they both feel good with the hand. Smiling, he said that they had won. The hand getting up from its place said that as she promised she would not interfere anymore. Now she can do whatever she wants. Kusanagi was pleasantly surprised. Well, turning the other way, he said that the bruises of the Jewish woman were quite light, and it seems she just succumbed, unlike him. The hand indignantly said that this was not true. Yuika gained strength in 2 weeks and asked her, after all, she herself understands this. Isn't it time to stop being overly caring? Yuika said that she would become even stronger so that her sister would not have to worry. He looked at her good-naturedly and said that she believed her. Suddenly something negative washed over Kusanagi and he looked sharply at the sky. The sky was red. Kusanagi excitedly thought that this is the same folk magic disaster.